Hello?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing I'm doing pretty all right. I may have had a little bit too much coffee this morning. I didn't sleep. My sleep schedule's been thrown totally off. So I like I said to you, I downed my third cup of coffee and now I got the jitters a little bit, but other than that, I'm doing great.
Nice. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Wait, are you Canadian by chance?
Yes, I am.
All right, okay. Oh, that's right.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
I don't want to say, but yeah, your email account. I remember there was something in
No,
it that
you can say if you are if it's because of the YouTube or whatever you get in trouble from YouTube for I don't know.
Nah, YouTube's pretty lenient about this stuff.
All
So
right,
wait,
you
I
can.
want to lay it out right on the front, okay? I have
All right,
referring to you very kindly as a Nat soak in this conversation, but YouTube titles
appreciate
have to
it.
be kept short, so that might end up getting truncated to Nazi, depending on how this conversation goes, okay?
Hey man, it's your show, it's your channel. You can if it does. It's up to you.
Okay, National Socialist Canadian Labour Revival Party. There we go. All right, trying to
Yeah,
revive
thank
Canada.
you.
Back to the glory of its indigenous roots, no doubt.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. The glory of its Siberian immigrant roots,
Uh,
right?
Oh, I don't. Oh, I actually don't. I don't even know enough about Canadian
Well, yeah,
indigenous
no,
history to
our
make a joke here.
our quote unquote indigenous native population traversed the ice bridge from Siberia about 12,000 years ago. They're not really indigenous to North America.
I'll have to look
Or
that
not,
one up,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, Siberia. Yeah, Siberia.
Okay, you know what? I'll look that one up. We can fight over ownership rights a little bit later, though. I need to
Yeah, for sure, for
look up
sure.
who crossed the ice bridges and when, and we can maybe get some like skin tone registries on the people who crossed that ice bridge. All
Oh,
right.
that's yeah,
So
okay.
you emailed me
Yeah,
with you wanted to talk about open border policy, LGBT rights, and race relations in the Western world.
sure, for sure.
Uh, buyer's choice. Which one do you want to hop on into first?
We could start with let's start with something exciting. Let's talk about race relations in the United or in the Western
I
world.
love race relations in the Western world. Yeah, hit me up. What's your do you want to state your position or shall I state mine?
It's your show. If you want to give me the go ahead to go first, I'll go first. If you want to go first, you can go first. I'm pretty easygoing.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll just take it real quick. My position is that while there are some racial conflicts in the Western world, I think that a lot of them are a product of deliberate disinfo, and that it's entirely possible for societies to exist without racial tension. I think that we generally benefit from diversity, and it's a policy that I'd like to continue into the future.
All right, I hold essentially the exact opposite position in that I believe that the impetus for the development of societies and cultures rests in the biological essentialisms of a people, be that the genetics of a people, and I've got a couple of sources that I can share with you about that because I'm pretty sure you guys like asking for sources,
We do.
right? You need to have your 12 peer-reviewed independent studies, or else I'm not listening.
Well, I
So
mean,
I've got a handful.
if we're talking essentialist claims on the nature of human biology, then I think it's probably good to support that with some kind of academic
Yeah,
literature. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree, and that's why my position is a little bit more nuanced than a lot of these other guys you see on the internet, who just like yelling racial slurs and saying like we're gonna, let's inflict violence or do this or that. I don't share that position. I hold the position that further scientific inquiry, further genetic sequencing is necessary before we make a definitive call on policy in the future regarding race and the way that we interact with one another as societies and as developments.
So what do you want to do right now then? I mean,
Well,
what's
I kind of
wrong
want to.
with
I want to bring you a little bit closer to my side and see if we can throw a little bit more nuance into some of your positions on race and race
No,
relations.
no, sure, but like in terms of like
Oh, in terms of what I like,
what
the
would you
outcome I'd like
change about America? I mean, let's say America
about
because I like
America. Well, let's
America.
say
Land
okay.
of the
Let's
free.
say what I'd change about America. Well, it seems to me a perfectly reasonable observation that a single representative government it can't possibly represent the interests of widely divergent groups that it would probably be, in the case of America, and this is exclusively America, which I don't necessarily concern myself with too much, but in the case of America, I think that the fairest solution would be to cede a state or two to the African American population and allow them the right to self-determination and the ability to govern themselves.
Wait, what?
That's
Wait,
that's my solution for the American issue.
what's the point of a democracy if rather than having a single government to unify the interests of a people, you just split the state down the line of people who disagree on issues? Like, couldn't we split any groups of people?
Well, of course well, that's what democracy does, doesn't it? At least in the modern world, you have divisions between men and women, between class, between any.
Should we just split these groups? Like, we can't resolve it through the processes?
They're already split. You have politicians who appeal to women. You have politicians and policies who appeal to the working class, to the rich, to.
But they're all part of America. I mean, they're all part of the democratic process. Why shouldn't black people be allowed to participate in it?
If they want to, they can, but I think that it would be more fair to, it would resolve the issues that they seem to have, because in order to accomplish under a single system, the sort of future you imagine where everybody gets along and there are no more issues like that, you would have to have the at least current racial majorities cede or concede on multiple different issues in order to appease the minority complaints.
Well, yeah, we did that when we got rid of slavery too. I mean, that's part of democracy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. But the issue I see is that, at least based off of my observations when it comes to the African American question in the United States, is that their complaints are no longer justifiable.
Like what complaints?
Well, the last year with the Black Lives Matter protests, and I know that you're a huge supporter of that, and that's your choice, and that's totally cool. But from where I see, where I sit as an observer, and what I've seen of these incidents that sort of act as the impetus to set off these protests or riots, is individuals acting very, very poorly in the middle of an arrest and behaving in a way that would, if you were a private citizen, would be totally justified in taking a person's life, but because these people are civil servants. Well, I mean, George Floyd. Wait.
We're already down the rabbit hole a couple of points here. So first of all, the idea that the best way to resolve conflicts in a democracy would be to create an ethno-state because you believe that the values held by a minority group are no longer tenable, I think is pretty ridiculous. I think the most untenable positions that are held in this country right now are held by white evangelical conservatives. I mean, for God's sake, they don't even think Trump lost the election. They stormed the Capitol building. If we want to talk about being divorced from reality, like climate change denial, then we're easily talking about white evangelicals being the group most deserving of being excised from the American Democratic electorate. Now, I don't believe in that, mind you. I think we should all get to participate. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to, but
for sure,
I don't see how any issues with race relations would be fixed by giving black people a couple of states. I mean, for one, it certainly wouldn't fix racism. Racism is at its worst in ethnically homogenous communities, like very white areas. For sure,
but you're never going to be able to eliminate racism. It's never
going. Why not? Well, we can mostly eliminate it. We can't ever really get rid of heightism. I mean, there's always going to be some bigotry.
You can re-educate people generation by generation by generation. But if you were to skip a generation in education, then people are going to revert back to what comes natural.
The natural state of humanity isn't racism.
Well, I would beg to disagree with you on that.
Well, that's okay, but you'd be wrong, though.
No, I wouldn't be wrong.
Our modern conception of racism is about 400 years old. Back before then, Socrates and Plato and other like Greek philosophers, they didn't think of race the way we did. They thought that The races were the thick-blooded Nords with their large skulls and their slow wits, and the thin-blooded Arabs with their quick wits and their dark skin. They didn't think of the world as split between white and black people.
I don't think of the world as being split between white or black people either. But the fact of the matter is that infants can identify people of separate ethnicities and react negatively to them.
Wait,
and it's only through
they can do that with men and women too. Like infants can recognize lots of characteristics. That doesn't mean that society will organize around like hatred between those groups.
Well, I would argue that the ability of an infant to differentiate between those who look like them and those who do not look like them is an evolutionary trait held over from. Well, I care.
Wait, so hold on. It's funny that you're taking the assumption that racism and racial apartheid are the default states of humanity when
they have been for
absolutely not.
Yeah, they absolutely were.
No, civilizations hundreds of years ago didn't organize themselves along racial castes the way that we do today. Our modern conceptualization of race is just that. Modern.
Well, you can look at plenty of different civilizations such
with
as
different types of hierarchies, but not organized along the ones that we have today. It seems like
the Indo-Aryan or Hindu or Eastern Indian society has organized themselves along ethnic and racial lines,
but not the ones we would arrange them along. Because if Americans
because they are of a different race.
Yeah, if Americans looked at them all today, they would just call them brown people. Our understanding of race is culturally determined. And it's funny that you're taking the default position. Racism has to be taught. You act as though if we skip a generation of education, people are going to like revert back to being racist. The opposite is true.
If this isn't the case, then why is there a constant push in media and education to specifically eliminate racism?
I'm not trying to teach people anti-racism. I'm trying to keep people like you from teaching racism. The default human is better than the human you raise.
I asked you a question. If what you're saying is true, why is there such a massive push to eliminate racism? If racism, or at least the recognition of differentiations between one group and another, that even a child knows that they are
a child. A child knows. Wait, no, hold on, wait. I can't keep letting you go. Wait, no, please stop. Children can recognize.
I haven't even finished a point
Children
yet,
can recognize that skin tones are different.
I haven't even finished a point yet, Vaush.
That's not the same as children recognizing all of the inherent racial differences you're ascribing to them. Children just can see skin tones are different.
I haven't ascribed anything yet. I haven't even finished a point yet.
Okay, finish your point, then I'll respond.
My point is that if what you're saying is true, and that racism is not, at least on some level, an inherent trait to differentiate the external from the internal, the in-group from the out-group, to say, I can trust these people. This is, from tribal civilization 60,000 years ago. To be able to differentiate between your group and another group is a very, very important trait if you wanted to survive 60,000 years ago. And I'm sorry to tell you, but 50 years of social justice isn't going to undo all of the factors that led up to this.
Do you think tribes were fighting over race? They would have all been the same skin tone.
I never said that. What I said was the ability to differentiate between the internal and external from the in-group and out-group is race. It is racism. That is what it is now. We're differentiating between skin color, but it's the difference by degrees is so minimal between differentiating between another tribe and your own tribe. It's the ability to perceive the internal and external, the out group from the in group.
Okay,
and that's always going to be a factor.
There are a couple of points that we have to address here. First of all, you're conflating tribalism and racism. Tribalism is an innate part of human organization, but that applies to like different high school sports teams. That applies to different families. That applies to people from different cliques in high school, the Goths versus the Jocks. Tribalism is a human characteristic. We're never going to get rid of it. The best thing we can do is try to teach people to respond to it responsibly.
I would say that
hold on. So you keep conflating that natural characteristic with racism. Our understanding of racism, the way we think of racism today, the way you think of racism, is
you don't know how I think of racism.
I can take a rough guess.
You'd be wrong, probably.
Hold on. is vanishingly new, okay? Now, humans have been organizing themselves into hierarchies for a long time, but not necessarily racial ones. So the reason why media teaches anti-racism is in large part because people like you still exist, and because we're not that far off from black people being literal second-class citizens here in America. I mean, for God's sake, there are people alive today who had to be force integrated into like the Arkansas schools, you know? We are not that far off from them being literal second-class citizens, and the people who were throwing rocks at those little girls being sent into school are also still alive. The idea that like we already lived in some like neutral post-racial society and then the social justice warriors came in to fix it, that is not true. We just had an openly racist president rule this country for 4 years, and an openly racist political party support his every decision. The idea, we're not fighting against a mankind's natural order. We're fighting against people like you who organize politically to disseminate disinformation and spread racial hate.
Well, I haven't disseminated any misinformation.
You already have a couple of times in this conversation, yeah.
I actually haven't. Just because you call it something doesn't make it so. And that's an important thing to remember. Now, you've made a handful of points, but I'm going to go back and address, and I'll try to address them one by one. But
can we go over them one by one, because otherwise it just turns into one block at a time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's talk about you made mention of high school football teams and the Goth clique and this and that. And I'd argue that those manifestations of tribalism only exist because we've broken down any meaningful connection to one's own identity. That these things are a manifestation of a desire to belong to something, where the ability to belong to something essential, which would be race and ethnicity and culture and history, to belong to that group has become stigmatized and made taboo in the modern world over the last 70 years.
So white supremacists don't play football? Wait, what?
Don't play that game with me.
No, wait, you're saying the only reason people engage in petty tribalism is to compensate.
That isn't what I said. What I said was that these people, as a sort of ersatz identity, drift towards different cliques. You mentioned Goth. You mentioned, I think, something else, cheerleaders, football players. That's not part and parcel to saying that white supremacists don't or do not do something.
You're saying the only reason they join these cliques.
That's a fallacy. No, that's not the only. No, you're misconstruing what I said, Vaush. What I said was that the manifestation of these identities. Now let's ignore football for a second, but Goth and these different subcultures. I'm having a hard time remembering. It's been a while since I was in high school. I was a Goth kid. I'm trying to remember what other cliques there were. Skater kids, the gangster.
I'm sorry you forgot your history in high school, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it was a long time ago. But all of these different cliques are a manifestation of the desire to belong to something, and when the essential properties of what these people are is denied to them, they'll gravitate towards other things to fill that void.
You've begged the question like 20 ways here. Okay?
I haven't begged any question. So you put words in my mouth, so it's kind of like tit for tat.
So this is fundamentally absurd for a couple of reasons.
Well, it's not fundamentally absurd.
Wait, hold on, mate. Come on. So first of all, the idea that people only join social groups because
I didn't say only. I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth.
Wait, then what did you say?
I said that these cliques and these manifestations of identity emerge as a sort of reaction to to fill the vacuum of essential identity, which is being denied.
Isn't that saying only? So that's the only reason they emerge?
No, I thought you were all about nuance. This is what I was told.
No, I'm trying. Wait, I can't. Wait, I'm trying. Okay, we're trying to be very nuanced here. Okay, so I'll try to meet you where you're at. All right. So a major reason why these social groups form is because people have been alienated from their racial identity. Do you have like any evidence of that? Because that seems like a pretty crackpot theory. Like the only reason that people form groups is because they've been told they can't form groups for being white. If you go, I'm pretty sure if you go back in history.
No, Vaush, you're misconstruing. But
America,
again, wait, hold on. Doing it on purpose.
No, hold on, wait. America was an explicitly white supremacist state for the first 100 or so years of its creation. I mean, very explicitly.
Yeah, and Goth kids didn't exist in colonial
Goth
America.
as a subculture didn't exist, but subcultures still existed. Wait, are you saying that Goth specifically only exists because of anti-racist? What are we talking about?
what are you talking about?
No,
All I
wait, so
said
are
was,
you saying that
all I said,
subcultures didn't exist back in early America, like 18th century
no,
America?
that's not at all what I said.
Then
But
what are we
I did
talking
say,
about?
well, if you stop reacting, so if you just calm down for a second and
You're
listen,
right, I'm getting
and
hysterical, my bad.
maybe I can rephrase what I'm trying to say to
Do you
you.
have any evidence of this? This is like very silly. Like the
Well,
only
it's not.
reason people
It's you.
form
Well,
social
it's
cliques.
well, it's no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the only reason people form groups is because X, Y, Z. What I'm saying is that these progressively more and more divergent, cliquey, in-group sort of, and I think that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, I'm
And well, no,
lost.
well then people have been people need to have something to belong to. Can we agree to that? People, there's a pathological need to
People
belong to
like forming
something.
social groups. Yeah.
People like forming social groups.
Yeah.
All right. And the proliferation of different social groups is a fairly recent phenomenon.
Absolutely not. No, I
No,
strongly
yeah,
disagree with that claim.
well, you can strongly disagree all you want, but I would be very hesitant to say that the level of proliferation now in just the vast different the vastness of all these different social groups, that didn't exist 50 or 60 years ago, and it certainly didn't exist 200 years
Don't you
ago.
think
There
it
were
could have
different social.
exploded because of mass media? Like, because we have the ability to be exposed to a bunch of different
Well,
cultural and social
mass
tendencies?
media has only been able to advertise these different things, but these different things, like you said, like there were different social groups in, say, colonial America, for sure. But the idea that people gravitate towards and then define their identity by, you see, this is the
No, that's
distinction
not
that has
new.
no. It is.
Also,
It
wait,
is.
aren't online alt-writers also obsessed with games and animes? Since they've returned to tradition, shouldn't they have, like,
Well,
given up all of their material?
let's not meme. I don't
No,
know
wait,
what the
that's not a
alt-right.
meme.
Well,
Wait,
I
wait,
don't
wait.
know what.
The
I
online
don't know what the
alt-right,
alt-right.
the
I
online
don't.
alt-right is obsessed with masculine subcultures. If they have, like,
Well,
returned to
anime.
tradition,
I wouldn't call anime a masculine subculture, but I don't really
sure, a
follow
feminine
them.
subculture. There you go. But wait. So the
I
people
don't follow
online
the
who
online. I don't do that.
So wait, the people online who have best returned to tradition and are celebrating their white identity are also
They're a bunch of
usually
losers.
very well, interestingly, they also seem to be very attached to a bunch of cliquey social groups, whether we're talking gaming or anime or Warhammer 40,000. So clearly, even if we were to accept your premise that
I
these
wouldn't agree with that.
subcultures have exploded lately, the idea that returning to one's white identity precludes you from participating in like a social group is ridiculous.
I don't have any basis to agree or disagree with that because I don't associate with or follow anybody on the
So do you have any
alt-right.
evidence at all that like racist people need social groups less? Like any at all?
Well, I have the anecdote of myself and my wife and the people that we associate with, which is not an insignificant number of people.
I'm feeling
that have nothing-
unconvinced.
Well, you don't need to be convinced. I'm not trying to convince you.
No, you said at the beginning your point was to move me over to your position. So you're explicitly trying to convince me.
This is a tertiary argument. We were talking about race just a minute ago, and now we're talking about social cliques because you shifted the argument towards here, and I.
You're the one who
instead.
focused on this. The point I'm making is just that tribalism isn't the same as racism, which is true.
You rambled off about 10 different points, and I'm still talking about the first one you made. Now, I would say that tribalism in the modern world is a manifestation of a lack of essential identity. And you would be foolish to deny. You would be foolish to deny that there, with BuzzFeed and a lot of this, neo media on the internet.
I think heartburn is a product of distance from one's essential identity. The only reason white people experience heartburn is because we're not racist enough. Like, do you have any evidence of this? This is complete conjecture. There's like,
Yeah,
not only do you have no
it is
evidence, I've
conjecture.
provided counter evidence. Social groups.
You haven't provided counter evidence.
Social
You've
groups
just made a claim. Making a claim isn't evidence. It's
So-
no more evidence than what I've said.
Social groups existed when America was explicitly white supremacist, and people adhered to them very heartily. And additionally, people today.
There's a difference between a social group like a ladies' book club.
No,
and
I mean
people
like
dressing up and
identities,
going-
like real identities. And today,
Like what?
I already said this. We can only go over it for so much. But the other claim that I made, which is true, that
you didn't give an example of some of these social groups from say,
return
colonial
to
America.
tradition, like white nationalist types today, are usually really, really tied up in their like gaming identities or whatever.
What does that have to do with the identities that you say existed in colonial America? That there were just so many of them.
I didn't say there were so many of them. I said that people had essential identity.
Well, people did have essential identity. I'm saying they don't have essential identity anymore.
So wait. Okay, we're wasting a lot of time on something that you've already admitted you can't prove. The idea that people
you can't prove anything either. You've just made
when I provided my hold on, wait. When I provided my claims, I gave examples. You said anecdote. You said, "Well, I'm like this." Okay,
well, you didn't give an example. That's bullshit, Vaush.
All right, I can see this point. Shall we move on?
Go for it. What was the second point you brought up? You didn't bring up examples. You made a claim that these cliquey identities existed throughout all of American history. I asked you to give an example.
Well, the problem is I could crack open a history book and we could talk about all the really interesting, like unique social factors. Hold on. Wait, stop.
You're deliberately obfuscating the point I've made.
So I could do that and we could talk about all these unique social identities that people dedicated their lives to. But A, you would just argue that they weren't essential. And then B, you would just argue that there aren't enough of them to counter your argument.
I would argue that they weren't essential.
Right, I know, because you arrived at your conclusion before finding your arguments.
None of the cliques I'm talking about are essential either. Do you know what an essential identity means?
I don't think there is such a thing, personally.
Well, that's your prerogative, but like an essential
Could you prove that there is? Wait, how am I defined by my race? How is that important to me? I'm a gamer, buddy. That's what matters to me.
Well, that's your prerogative to say, but there is such a thing as an essential identity.
What makes it essential?
Well, because it's intrinsic to you.
No, it's not.
It absolutely
my identity, my skin tone is intrinsic.
I was listening to you earlier, and you were talking about your penis, and you gained a lot of weight because you just got this huge, massive schlong that you got to whip over your shoulder to get through fucking doors, right? You were talking about that. So you are obviously a dude, right? You're a guy. You're a man. You're male.
There are women with massive cocks. You know, there are women who have to whip it over their shoulder. Oh yeah, there are. Yeah, big ones. I actually met a woman with a bigger penis than me one time. It was actually quite, interesting.
Well, you met a man with fake breasts.
No, they were real breasts. They were very squishy.
Oh. Are you saying this for shock factor?
No, it's not shocking to anybody but you. Squishy boobs? Does that scare you?
Shocking to most people.
Does squishy boobs scare you?
No, what perturbs me a little bit is people on your side's commitment to equating people suffering mental illness and buying into their fantasies for the sake of
wait, are we doing that? We can do the trans thing. I'm cool to do the trans thing, but are we moving off the race thing?
You brought it up because I don't think you
brought my dick up. What do you mean I brought it up? You brought it up.
I brought your dick up to prove an essential identity. You are a man, which is an essential identity. It's something that can't be taken away from you. It's something that can't be given to you. It's something that is essential to the constitution of your form, of your mind, of your body.
Well, obviously I disagree with that. But what if I don't identify? What if I don't identify with a characteristic that I hold? So hold on, wait, just wait. Let me give it. Please, let me give an example. Okay, so identities aren't just demographic characteristics. They're ways of announcing your self-expression. They're components of your being. So I'm also like a brown-haired kind of guy. That's essential. I mean, that'll be with me until I'm 60 or 70, and then it'll start to go gray or white. That's essential to me. But I don't identify, like my identity is not as a brown-haired guy. Now, I am a brown-haired guy. That's true, but it's not a part of my identity. So when I think of people's...
whether or not you choose to acknowledge it, it is, because you're a brown-haired individual. That means you are defined by being brown-haired.
Nobody has ever defined me by having brown hair, ever.
But you are also defined by being none of the other hair colors. It is an essential trait to you,
Identity
but
is a
correct.
fundamentally social
Whether you choose
characteristic.
to,
Nobody
or whether you
identifies me by
choose
my brown
to
hair.
whether you choose to acknowledge it as part of your identity or not, like you can't call yourself blonde,
So wait, by
and
identity, wait.
that would be a delusion if
So
you
by
were to say you're
identity,
blonde.
well, there's
Well,
no
you're
hard
not.
line between brown and blonde, but so by
But
identity,
you know
you
what I mean.
literally
Don't twist words.
by identity, you literally just mean any characteristic of a person. Like it is my identity that I have 2 ears.
By essential identity.
It is my
by an
it is my
essential
identity that I have a size 14 shoe size. Like these are identities to you.
No, it's part of your essential makeup. It's something that can't be altered or taken away from you unless you do something ridiculous. But under natural circumstances, can't be divorced from the essence of your
So
of
to
your
you,
being or
essential
personality or
when I
not.
think of the term essential identity, I think of like a characteristic that a person represents themselves through. Like if a person is really, really, really into illustration, like they're an artist, that's an identity of theirs. But when you say essential identity, you literally just mean like what's in their DNA.
The pure essence of a person.
How is
With a
that my
person is a-
pure essence? What does that even have to do with
well,
me?
anything else beyond that is either vocational or you can create different
It's just
partitions of what you want to be.
the
but
idea to me that
there is a foundation that you build on.
the idea to me that you think of your pure essence as an unchanging biological framework is really sad to me. Like, shouldn't
then
life
let it
be what you
sad
make
if
of
you
it?
want it.
Like, that's your identity. Like, when you think, who am I? Your head starts listing out like a gene code. Like, that's you? That's how you think of yourself?
Not in practice, but in reality, yeah, that is the baseline, foundational, essential property of the organism that I am.
But most of that is irrelevant to your day-to-day life.
Well, most of it actually. This is a point I was going to bring up about race and democracy and politics, and the necessity, the possible necessity of allowing different groups to form societies and governments and enact policy on their own behalf.
They already do.
But not in a way that would interfere with another group's ability.
What's
to
another
form
group? Wait, that's the point of democracy. Every individual is their own group of one. What do you mean? Why arbitrarily split countries by race?
Because you see, when you have minorities in a country, they're never going to be able to achieve political success
Yeah, they have.
In any meaningful way.
The
They're not
Irish and
gonna
the
be able to-
Italians have already achieved material success in America.
They're
Jewish
European.
people have done pretty well. A lot of them came here after the Ayatollah in Iran. A lot of them came to Beverly Hills, and a lot of them followed, prior and after the Holocaust. We have a lot of Jewish people here in America. They've been doing pretty well, even though they still get treated like crap sometimes. They're doing okay for themselves socially. So minorities can make it.
Well, if that's the case, what's stopping black people from making it?
They're doing a hell of a lot better than they used to, aren't they? I mean, they're doing work. Wait, do you actually want to talk about what's stopping them? Because I have like 48 policies that I can list at you.
What's stopping blacks that didn't stop the Italians, Irish, the Ayatollah, or Jews? Why are blacks the odd one out?
Wait, the Ayatollah is in Iran.
You brought up the Ayatollah doing really well.
No, the Ayatollah was the reason Persian Jews came to America. Anyway,
you brought that up.
Yeah.
Why are Persians? Why are Jews? Why are Asians, Italians, Irishmen? Why are all these people capable of success when the Irish were definitely treated poorly.
Mm-hmm.
The Italians were definitely treated poorly. The Asians were locked in internment camps and forced to build railroads, but yet they don't seem to suffer the same struggles as African Americans.
Sure.
What are the obstacles that weren't present for Chinamen or Japanese people that are present for blacks?
So yeah, I can actually answer every single one of those questions in perfect detail. So first of all, the Irish and the Italians both benefited from a demographic shift that took place after the end of World War II. Essentially, new low-class workers were needed in factory towns up near the north, but they wanted white people and not black people. At the time, Italians and Irishmen weren't considered full whites, but they were considered more white than black people. So the demographic shift, the arrival of these groups afforded them an opportunity to economically advance by distancing themselves from the black people with whom they had previously shared their poor person's tenements. So they were given a ladder out that black people never were. As for Asian people in America, actually many of the poorest districts in America are Chinese and Japanese. The reason why we think of Asians as doing well is because we have a very large population of immigrants who come here. Immigrants who come to America in the modern day especially over plane, tend to be much wealthier and much better educated than the types of immigrants who came to America 100 years ago. The demographic statistics of Japanese and Chinese and what have you people here in America are massively skewed by wealthy parents coming here for business reasons or to send their wealthy young children over here to get a good education. As for Jewish people, well, Jewish people have been around in America forever, but they also benefited specifically because many of the Jewish people who came over here were essentially expats of tyrannical European governments. They came here with resources and knowledge that they wouldn't have had otherwise because they were forced into financial sectors and scientific sectors as well. I mean, we got Einstein prior to their arrival here. The main difference is that black people are the only racial group in America that never came here through a big immigration wave elsewhere. We brought them over as slaves. They never had that ladder that every single other group got. They were brought here as slaves, and when they were freed, they had nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the government reneged on promises that it gave them too. 40 acres and a mule never came through to them. They were given absolutely nothing, no ladder out, no connection to foreign governments, nothing. So they weren't given any of the same opportunities as other racial demographics. You have that, plus you have a bunch of...
What about the opportunities that they're given today that they don't utilize?
So first of all, we're talking about demographic shifts like this take hundreds of years.
They've had over 100 years to get their act together.
They've only been first-class citizens for about 60 years, which is like 2 generations, which is not much to deal with tens of millions of people who lived essentially as second-class citizens for centuries. That's a very short length of time. But what policies exactly? I mean, there are still discriminatory policies against black people and their outcomes. The criminal justice system has been proven to be both explicitly and implicitly biased against black people with regards to its outcomes. Police and judges do the same thing. Even juries demonstrate a level of implicit bias based on how dark the person's skin is. This comes down a number of ways.
I'd argue that it has a lot more to do with courtroom decorum than it has anything to do with their skin color.
There's no evidence of that.
There's no evidence that it has anything to do with skin color.
Yes, there is.
I highly doubt that a census taker went around and asked juries, "Did you find this man guilty because of his skin color?"
That's not how those studies are conducted. What you actually do...
You have no evidence to suggest that it's because of their skin color.
Would you like me to provide you evidence? I have a link with citations. Sure.
I would love you to do that, and I can guarantee you that it has nothing to do with asking.
What is a jury? Where do they pull juries from?
They pull juries from the public, from taxpayers.
Okay, so if juries are pulled from a random selection of taxpayers, it would make sense then that if you're going to measure implicit bias in juries, you wouldn't actually need to ask jurors. All you would need to do is ask random taxpayers, because they're all equally likely, assuming they're 18 or older, to be brought up in a case later down the line. So extensive studies of implicit bias on average citizens...
That's a terrible methodology, though, because you're asking people a hypothetical question versus actually dealing with people in the real situation, who have the real facts of individual cases in front of them.
Again, that's not how it works.
That is absolutely how it would work.
I can explain. So
you don't have to explain. That's a terrible methodology.
So these jurors
asking random people who are not serving on a jury. Well, that's what you just said.
No, it isn't.
You said you can go around and ask the taxpayers.
You don't have to study them. So how this usually works... Here, hold on. So I'll link it to you right now. Just a moment.
Go ahead and link it to me. Link it to
Research
me.
Repository, WDU, EDU. There you go. So let me read an excerpt from the abstract. It says right here, in this study, 2 groups of mock jurors were given a collection of race-neutral evidence from an armed robbery, with one group's alleged perpetrator being shown to be light-skinned and the other dark-skinned. Jurors were significantly more likely to evaluate ambiguous, race-neutral evidence against the dark-skinned subject as incriminating and more likely to find the dark-skinned subject guilty. So you don't have the problem of courtroom behavior here because there is no courtroom behavior. We're talking about race-neutral evidence and 2 groups of mock jurors, and they were significantly more biased against the dark-skinned subject. So there is, because everything else is controlled for here, no explanation for this besides racial bias, which they may or may not have been explicitly aware of. I mean, implicit bias works like that.
All right. Well, I'll have to read this. I'll have to read what you've sent me. Obviously, I don't have, what is this, 45 pages? I don't have time to read it while we're doing this, but I'll read it.
Yeah, the abstract has most of the useful information, but I read all of it over. I'm a sociology major, so I'm actually academically qualified to test the methodology.
I was told you were a sociology major.
Yeah. So this is my field, and as far as I can tell, this methodology points significantly to the legitimacy of the data set they found. So it's something that I like to pull out pretty often. But here's the thing that makes me wonder. You are, maybe you don't cop up to this term, but you are racist. Why would it be surprising to you that other people would be racist too? Like you just said, different racial groups have different demographic interests, but now in complete contrary to that, you're also saying there's no way racism plays a part in the American criminal justice system. Why? Well, these are incompatible.
Because my definition of racism doesn't equate to the bigotry you're talking about. If these jurors are bigoted, that's one thing, totally separate from my view of a racialistic sort of a political ideology or worldview.
I have never met a person who called themselves like a principled race realist white ethno-nationalist who wasn't also bigoted against black people. It really seems to come with the territory.
Well, the fact of the matter is I have profound respect for a lot of the tribal groups in Africa. I have profound respect for them. I have profound respect for the Sentinelese. I have absolutely nothing against people of different ethnic backgrounds or races, especially those who remain vigilant in their fidelity to their race and culture and customs.
Why? Why can't we all just get along?
Why do I have respect for Africans, or why do I prefer people who remain?
First of all, it's funny to me that I was talking about black people and your immediate thought was tribes. Africa is a continent with cities.
I don't have any respect for, I don't really have a whole lot of respect for overly socialized whites either.
Well, this is exactly what I mean by implicit bias. You thought black people, and then in your mind you thought tribes. That's exactly the kind of thing that led those mock jurors. See, this is exactly what I mean. Africa has cities with monorails and shit.
I don't have any respect for cosmopolitan or overly socialized white people either. That's the fact of the matter.
But everyone lives in cities these days. Like every racial group lives in cities.
I don't really have a whole lot of respect for people who are reliant on that kind of modernization.
What?
I'm telling you my position. Whether it makes sense, whether it's practical, or whether you like it or not is not really.
I'm just offended. I live in Seattle. I like the city lights. You know, it's pretty.
Well, that's your prerogative.
What's wrong with city living?
I find concrete and asphalt culture to be almost erosive of the spirit or the soul or a man's vigor. I don't have anything kind to say about cosmopolitan development.
Was it like a capitalism thing? Like you don't like the over consumerism present in cities?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it, absolutely. And I'm sure we'd agree on economics a lot more than we'd agree on race.
Yeah, sure, but I think that personally, I'm not interested in a socialist society unless black and brown people get to come along for the ride. Okay, that's not. Some people they put it out like this trade, like we can have economic democracy as long as we're willing to cast aside the minorities. I reject that. I think not only do I think we should all get to come along, I think that it's better if we do,
You're entitled to reject that, but when a group's interests are consistently outvoted, unless you have a 50-50 or 25-25-25-25 split down the middle, then you're never going to have a democracy that represents the interests of every single group.
There's no government can ever fully represent the interests of every group. That's the point of a democracy. You make compromises for a better gain for everyone.
Yeah, but the issue is the fact that in order to appease like Black Lives Matter compromises, which would result in a negative for white Americans.
Right, how?
Like they want to defund the police. Isn't that a negative outcome for law-abiding citizens who don't want to be victimized by crime?
No. You put that money towards social services that would decrease the likelihood of people engaging in criminality. If you took all the money that we put, well, hold on, because like some police departments get billions in yearly spending, like LAPD, New York City. If you took that money, just a portion of it, I mean, even if just like a tenth, and put it towards social programs in that city that would feed kids or help with education or SNAP programs, you would cut down on the number of criminals in general. Cops are like a Band-Aid. What we're talking about is antibiotics.
Right, I understand that, but then you run into the problem. Don't those groups call that gentrification? Aren't they against that? Because once you go in and institute these programs and build up a civilization for them,
What?
that they no
Wait.
longer have the means to live within it.
Wait.
Well,
Build
I
up
don't,
a,
under,
what
I
are we
don't
talking?
understand.
Wait.
Well,
What are we talking about? Build up
you
a.
have to pull all the garbage out of Detroit.
No. We're just talking about
build
funding social programs. We're not.
Oh, so
we're
you
not
just want to
talking
give
about.
them more. You just want to give them more free money, more
No,
food stamps.
that's
more
not.
wage.
First of all, wait, hold on. So first of all, being poor is a very high indicator of criminality. So giving them more money would make them less likely to be criminals. Yeah. And second of all, social programs don't begin and end at giving people more money. It could involve investing more in education, like investing more in schooling or repairing infrastructure. You know, a lot of these pothole-ridden roads don't exactly inspire civic practice. It could go towards a lot of things, even daycare services. That would be huge, you know?
Sure. You can throw many more times the amount of money at the education gap, which has yet to be closed.
Actually, everything that I just suggested has been proven to actually have positive tax returns down the line. See, criminals don't contribute very much to our tax system. Either they don't pay their taxes or they don't make very much money. I think it was actually found that investing in SNAP, so you know, like infant, like for like food money for like mothers and stuff like that, it actually had a 7-to-1 payback ratio. Every dollar you put into the program gave $7 in taxes later, because that means, WIC, sorry, not SNAP, WIC, my apologies. It means that you have fewer criminals. It means that you have fewer people spending money in jail. It means that you have people more likely to get educated and go get jobs, which means you can tax them higher. So investing in the infrastructure of these communities benefits all of us, up to and including white people, because they will have to pay less in taxes for policing in that area down the line.
All right. You know what, Vaush? I'll put it to you this way. I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt on that, because if the outcome goes the way I assume it will go, that benefits my side of this whole thing. When everything goes tits up and your social experiment turns out to create a new generation of totally indolent, totally F8, totally useless groups of people, and the civilization around you starts to crumble because of that, just like Detroit did. How many billions of dollars have been thrown at Detroit trying to get
Detroit crumbled because the auto industry imploded, not because of social welfare programs.
Detroit crumbled because private employers wanted cheaper labor, so they brought blacks up from the South who didn't want to work in the auto factories, and then the auto factories closed down as white people left.
Wait. No,
Yeah,
no.
no.
Wait.
Yes,
Hold on. Wait. This is moon logic. Wait. You think these car companies were like, we need cheaper labor.
Yes.
So instead of just paying our employees less because we have a minimum wage, this is a first world country, let's bring people up from the South. They brought black people. Hold on. You just said the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life.
I didn't say the craziest shit ever. Vaush.
Wait, I'm trying to understand. Help me understand. I'm trying to clarify your point.
10 minutes ago, you said blacks were second-class citizens up to 60 years ago. When did the Detroit auto industry crash? What year?
I don't remember the exact year.
Well, it was over 60 years ago, Vaush. So you don't really have to pay those happy, slappy, dancing Negroes minimum wage now.
Wait. Hold on. Chill, okay?
Well, I'm just saying, you're jumping for joy trying to.
Wait, I thought you weren't a big fan of implicit bias, okay?
Well, Vaush, come on.
It looks like the
fact of the matter is, the auto companies wanted to save a bit of money, and they incentivized the migration of they incentivized. They offered programs like you just said.
What programs?
They subsidized housing. They wanted
and
to incentivize.
They did this to keep costs low.
They did like you said, the long-term payouts, right? The long-term
payouts for society, not for the company. The way you made it sound. So hold on. So wait, please. I'll mute you if I have to, because you said something so crazy. I just need to make sure I understand it. Okay. So
you can look it up yourself.
man, I'm currently looking it up, and I can see that you're wrong. So I just want to talk about it with you, okay? We just want to talk, okay? From white to white, okay? So as far as I can tell, okay, the decline of Detroit had to do with a broader manufacturing outsourcing from America. Detroit was just very heavily reliant on its auto industry. The idea that like black people were incentivized to come up, and then black people didn't want to work union factory jobs, so then Detroit had to take all of its auto companies and move, is, I don't know what asshole you pulled that out of, but that is complete. How did you find a way to blame outsourcing on black people? That was extraordinary. You like, like any social problem, can you blame the hole in the ozone layer on them too? Come on. No, it was outsourcing. That's how capitalism works. Wages kept going up and up here in America, and as transportation grew cheaper, these companies realized that they could just outsource all this work to China. So they did. That's just how our economy works. It's not black people's fault.
Okay. So at what point then did Detroit start becoming ethnically the ethnic majority of Detroit? When did that become black, and why?
Well, Detroit's always had a lot of black people in it. I mean, a lot of them, hold on, wait, a lot of them came up from the South after slavery to participate in, wait, hold on.
No, you can look up the demographics of Detroit year by year by year, and there's a particular point in, you know,
yeah, I think it was sometime during the there would have been like multiple waves. You would have had black people who came up after slavery. You would have had black people who came up during the war, because most of the
Detroit
white men
was overwhelmingly white until about the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah, like during the war. Yeah, white men went off to serve in the war effort, so black people and women went up north so they could participate in all these nice factory jobs. But they were the first ones fired after the white people came back. That's the old saying, last hired, first fired. So then you have like...
So you do concede, though. You do concede that there were incentives to bring blacks up during the war.
Yeah, because they wanted jobs. You said they brought black people up to cut costs.
No, I said they incentivized.
No, you said brought black people up to cut costs, which is ridiculous. They needed workers. It wasn't to cut costs. You blamed outsourcing on black people. Was completely... Is this the nuance? Like, you just made it up.
Well,
anyway...
Here's the fact of the matter. Whether or not you're correct, and I don't believe that you are, when white people
if you don't know,
when white people did, can you shut the fuck up, Vaush, and stop interrupting? Let me finish a fucking sentence.
I apologize. From one white to another.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, brother.
Whether you agree with me or not, Vaush, the fact of the matter is, when those white people did come back from the war and found Detroit to be completely overrun with blacks, they moved. And once they moved, what happened to Detroit over the next 20 years? It's been like this ever since. Why did it end up that way?
I like how, again, you were like, I have no implicit bias. By the way, they overran Detroit.
Well, did they not? And why is Detroit
actually, I can explain to you what actually happened if you want. No, it's okay. I'm happy to explain it to you.
What actually happened? I just told you what happened, and you actually agreed with me.
I'm happy to explain it to you.
So
white people came back from the war effort, and because everyone was racist as shit, because they were like you, what they did was they fired all of these productive black workers, and then all those formerly productive, hardworking, tax-paying black workers had no jobs, and many of them had no means to move outside of Detroit, because moving is really expensive, so they formed an underclass in the city. White people, realizing that they don't want to live near black people because they are racist and don't like black people, and by the way, they created the poverty problem that they would later complain about, white flighted themselves out to the suburbs, which decreased the available job base and made it more comparatively expensive to hoist employees from that region. All of these factors contributed to the outsourcing that would happen soon afterwards. But you'll notice the only people who did anything wrong in those situations were whites. Black people came up like good patriots to fill necessary jobs during the war effort, and how were they rewarded? They were fired without reason when white people came back. And then white people, not liking the poverty they created, cried about it and ran to the suburbs. That's what killed the city. White people killed Detroit, my dude.
No, Vaush.
Yeah, they did. They did. White people, they destroy everything. They're like, it's the warrior gene. Very violent.
Vaush, when you work a union job, and let's say you get drafted, right, and they hire a scab to cover.
No, wait, that's not what a scab. That's not what a scab is.
Yeah, a scab is somebody who works your job, who's not in the union when you're not working the
a
job.
A scab is a person who breaks a picket line. If you're off to war for 3 years, it's not a scab to have people fill up factory jobs in the meantime.
When you're not in the union, and when you come in to work to fill these positions that union guys were holding, and then the union guys come back, of course the union is going to take care of the union. And I thought you were pro-union. I read that on your rational
Wait, hold
wiki.
on. The black people weren't fired because of union obligations. They were fired because the companies didn't like having black people in their employee base.
Well, because they were also not in the union, and the union guys came back. But
that is that is not true. You realize this is conjecture. You're making it up. You're thinking like, how can I find a way to quickly?
No, I don't really even give a shit.
Maybe unions should have let them in, but unions were super racist, so they didn't let black people in. Damn, white people ruining stuff again. What are you gonna do, right?
Well, no, Vaush, because when you look at the issue like that, and that's fine and dandy, and you can look at it like it's white people's fault. But
it pretty objectively is, yeah. They created all of these systemic problems.
It's not white people who light buildings on fire, who throw their trash in
moving it over. Hey, moving it over. Notice how you pivoted away from the wait. Notice how the original argument was about why black people haven't been able to make it in America, and I answered, and you were like, okay, and then we moved to the next point, and now you're moving to the next point. One last point, by the way. After World War II,
you can make that assertion all you want. I'm still talking about Detroit.
After World War II, black people also didn't get to benefit from the GI Bills too. So white people got to come back and got a big cash infusion and the ability to go to college pretty easy because they served in the war effort. Black people didn't. So there's another reason, by the way, why those fine fellas over in Detroit weren't able to bootstraps their way up. The government was explicitly discriminatory in how it handed out its social welfare.
You know what, Vaush? I'll give that to you. I don't think that it should matter, but I'll give it to you. But when you put it that way, it almost makes it seem like you're making excuses for them trashing the city after the fact.
We're not talking about wait, hold on. Wait. We're not talking about trashing any cities. Do you mean Detroit?
No, Detroit is a third world hellhole.
Yeah, because it's poor as shit, and because there are a fuck ton of systemic issues white people created that nobody ever fixed.
Just because you're poor doesn't mean you need to shit in the streets.
That's what poor people. Hold on. We're not talking about shitting in the streets. Poor people.
I am talking about shitting in the streets and throwing your trash everywhere and graffitiing things.
I'm sorry. Have you ever been to a poor white area? I've been down to Alabama. I have, so I'll answer for you. Okay. Poor people, poor neighborhoods are poorly kept. Period. Okay. It doesn't have anything to do with the race of the people.
I lived in a trailer park in Florida for 6 years. It was low income. It wasn't great. And it certainly didn't look like Detroit. I've been through
because Detroit has millions of people in it, and your trailer park had 17 people, all of whom are related. Okay? It's not even comparable here.
Millions of people don't live on a city block in Detroit. There are millions of people in Detroit, but every city block in Detroit looks like a fucking hellhole.
Cities produce more trash. There are more people per apartment tenement than you could ever cram into an RV.
I'm not disputing that, but what I am saying is that people in the trailer parks aren't throwing their trash all over the place and just leaving it there and letting it.
There are millions of people in Detroit. These are completely incomparable. But if you want, you can go down to super poor. I've been in Koreatown in Los Angeles. Hey, that area is pretty fucking dirty too.
Gosh, why is it that they don't clean up their own city? Why don't they do it?
What do you mean? Why don't poor Koreans or white people clean up their own poor communities?
Well, because they do.
No, they don't. That's the thing. They don't. It's not individual citizens' jobs to go around trash keeping. You're supposed to pay taxes, and garbage collectors are supposed to do that.
I thought your long-term goal was for there to be like an autonomous anarchy sort of thing.
My long-term goal is for the people of Detroit to get their fucking tax dollars back, is what it is. Those people got shafted hard by people like you, and they've been paying the consequences ever since.
Well, shit happens to a lot of people.
So first it was their fault, but now that it's white people's fault, shit happens. Dude, is this the nuance that I'm feeling right now, coursing through my veins?
Well, you know what, Vaush? I was going to talk about genetics with you, but you're too fucking retarded to grasp that, so we're talking about this.
Wait, do you really think you know more about genetics than I do?
I think you're a sociology major who needs to stay in your lane.
Wait, what did you major in?
I majored in biology.
That's unfortunate. Wait, real?
Yeah, for real.
Oh, all right. Well, do you think is it too late for you to get a refund, or I mean,
Vaush, Vaush, you're a sociologist, okay? Stay in your lane. You don't know, like, what the fuck do you know about biology?
All right, I'm sorry, my white brother. I apologize. Okay, so now that we've cemented that white people are at fault for everything wrong in America, do we want to move on to like a non-race issue? I feel
Well,
like
they
I've been
back.
red-pilled on this one.
They could have gone back. At any point in time, they could have gone back. And I think that there's a Blaxit
Why?
movement.
This is their country.
Well, it's not their country, though.
Yeah, it is.
They were brought
Dude,
they were brought
black
over
people have been
slaves.
here in America longer than 98% of the fucking white folks who came down from German, French, Italian, and Irish immigrants after the Union was founded.
They were stolen, were they not? Were they not kidnapped?
Yeah, and now they're stolen. Now it's their country. It's theirs now.
By what right?
Huh?
By what right?
By what right?
What did they do to earn this country?
What do you mean? What do they do to earn it? Is that how that works? I thought earlier you were all about who got here first. Is it now about earning it?
No, it's always been
I'd
about
say we're
earning it.
paying him back. I'd say we're paying him back for a couple $1 trillion of unpaid labor. How about that? Let's just say it's an indebtedment issue, okay?
Well, why don't the people who sold them have to pay them back? Why don't the people who picked them up?
We're coming for them next, okay? First, black people. Wait, hold on. That's step 2. First, black people are going to take over America. Then they're going to Africa. The fuck did you people do to me? And then they're conquering Africa, okay? That's step 2.
I think you should go after the people who owned the slave ships.
Wait, the people. Wait. Americans were the ones who owned the slave ships.
No. The Atlantic slave trade. There were slave.
And the British and the Dutch.
There were slave auction blocks in America, but the people who owned the ships weren't Americans.
Well, they were British and I'm sorry, you're right. They were Europeans. They were of European descent. They weren't.
I think you should look their names up.
Are we taking that route? Hey, I have all the data on that one too. If you unironically want to pretend that Jewish people facilitated the transatlantic slave trade.
Well, they owned the slave ships.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they actually didn't. What you're talking about is an off-repeated Stormfront talking point. There were like 2 examples of ships ownership being traced back to lineage. And what's more, just because these ships were owned by a given merchant does not mean that they were employed by that merchant. Often what these people would do, they would contract out voyages to captains on a commission fee from the state that they were a part of. So there's so many levels of misinformation.
Person was born into a country where the minority of people own slaves doesn't make them culpable. How's that? If it works,
who's culpable?
Well, you just said that the people who operated the ships might not have anything to do with the people who own them.
Well, wait. This whole conversation, the past
people were descendants of people who were born.
The past 2 to 3 minutes, I've mostly been fucking with you. I don't actually want America to invade Africa. Just to clarify.
I would never have assumed that, Vaush. But what I'm saying is that if you think that the people who own the ships are not, because the
people who own the ships are dead.
Well, yeah, and the people who own slaves are also dead.
Yeah, they're also dead. Wait.
So why do you want reparations? Why do you want those trillions of dollars? And who's paying that? Dead people?
What? Americans.
Well, nobody alive owned them.
Doesn't matter. It's America. America's problem. America fix it. America problem. Big problem. America fix it.
Well, you just said that the people who own the ships are dead. The people who own the slaves are also dead. Vaush.
America problem. We're not talking about people. We're talking about countries. Big problem. America fix it.
No.
Yeah. But you're a Canadian. Don't you tell me what I can do with my tax dollars. You can't vote here. Get out of here, you fucking Canuck. Come on.
I'm pretty sure I still have dual citizenship, maybe.
Oh, shit. Oh, well, I guess we'll have to vote battle then. Yeah.
I voted in 2016. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm legal.
Oh, well, okay. All right, never mind. Well, vote battle it is then. Chat, you're going to have to counteract those votes with your own voting. Assume you're American.
I don't fucking vote.
Oh, well.
What's the point, man? What's the point?
You're right. We're going to win in the end. What's even the point? Might as well go up to some far-off county of Quebec and live out a white ethno-state with like 16 other white people.
I agree, actually, as a matter of fact.
Wait, that'd be so... Wait, why not just give up? Like, why fight against the inexorable tide of history? We win every decade.
Yeah. Well, you do win in your own way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pan. Now I can get married to a guy if I ever wanted to. Fuck men, but if I wanted to.
You're always very successful in the sloughing down to the lowest common denominator. And instituting a pig-like uniformity amongst the population.
Wait,
so
hold on. How is letting more people do more things uniformity?
Because you deny as a matter of policy any essential property to a human being that differentiates them as a group from one
So
another.
uniformity is when
Want
anyone can
everybody
marry, but freedom is when only white het couples can marry. That's the opposite of conformity.
You know, Vaush, my position on all of these things is that it would be more fair in the long run for everybody to build up their own individual developments and to cooperate if necessary, but to have a homeland which we can call our own.
We do, America.
Well, no, we don't.
Yeah, we do. It's my homeland.
No, well, you have a very, very interesting definition of what a homeland is.
It is.
You
I was
don't-
born here. Parents are born here. Love this place. America. Freedom.
yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Well, because you in
What do I have to do with Poland? That's my major ethnic background, by the way.
2040. It's 2049 when your nation is slated to become a white minority, and you'll never have control over your government again.
Wait, why do you think I want white people to have control of America? White people are the worst voting bloc in this fucking country. They make the worst decisions. You people, I don't know what's going on, but
because when you lose the white majority, you become South Africa.
wait. South Africa has been controlled by white people pretty much its entire history.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, even now they have an overwhelming amount of social, political, and economic power. I mean, it's not an apartheid state anymore.
They have their children thrown into boiling pots of water too.
Can you? Where does that happen? Is that just a common thing that happens?
South Africa, yeah.
So again, I've also looked up the history of South Africa because people like you like to cry over it. What happens is that you guys read like 2 or 3 headline articles clipped out on Stormfront, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's white genocide over there." When in reality, by every demographic statistic, white people are doing better than black people over there.
Why do you keep saying Stormfront as if I use that website?
I only know so many knots. Do you want me to say like 8chan or Poll? Where do I go to?
I don't use those either.
What do you just huff your own farts? Where are you getting all this from?
Well, like I said, I've got like 30 studies here on an oxytocin gene mutation that is prevalent in Asiatics, which totally alters the trajectory of their social and cultural development. But I'm not going to get to that because we're talking about this shit, and there's no point in even talking about it because you're not going to understand, and you're just going to filibuster around like you've been doing this entire fucking time.
I'm glad you don't throw that one out at me because it's true. I'm not that familiar with the genetic development of oxycodone Asiatic genes.
Oxytocin, and it is the RS 53576 permutation of the OXTR
Gotcha.
gene.
This means a lot to me. Well, so far you've been wrong about almost everything you've said, so I'm comfortable knowing this is probably also not correct.
I have not been wrong. Your insistence that I am incorrect doesn't make me incorrect.
That is true. That isn't how that works. It would be my arguments that do so.
Well, you haven't made any arguments.
So wait, why should I care if America becomes a white minority country? I mean, are they gonna like hurt me, like beat me up for being white or something? What?
I don't think that any of your virtue signaling will save you.
What virtue signaling?
Black Lives Matter, trans rights, gay rights, this, that.
Are like trans people gonna beat me up? What?
No, but the positions you take are obviously designed to show just how, I think you guys call it woke.
I think you're projecting a little bit. I just believe these things. If you take a look at my online presence, you'll find. Wait, hold on. If you take a look how I interact with the rest of the left, please trust me. I am not being performative. Okay, I take shots from both sides all the time. This is not a
I think that you would be disingenuous to say in light of, I think you've gotten about $1,000 in super chats, right? You'd be a bit disingenuous to say that there's a little bit of performance to it. You want
to I mean, I talk loud, sure, but these positions that I held them before I had a stream. You can find old logs of me typing in other people's chats from like 2014. I believe basically all the same stuff. Not as well as I do now. I mean, I've refined my views over the past 7 years, but yeah, basically.
For sure, everybody does. But at the end of the day, you really haven't made any actual arguments. You've made claims just like me. And
wait, but save me from what? You say like it's not going to save me. Do you think that if like the demographic counter ticks over and whites are now 49% of the country, all of a sudden there are going to be like Black Lives Matter looter gangs that are going to like beat my head in or something? Or?
No, but very rapidly after that point, when you become the minority in America, rapidly you'll see rapid policy change which benefits blacks and disadvantages you.
What? Wait, have whites rapidly pushed policies to advantage themselves and disadvantage others?
Absolutely.
And why earlier did you ask me why black people weren't able to succeed and then act indignant when I said that the criminal justice system was biased. This is what I like. Hold on, wait. This is what I like about you people. You people pretend racism isn't a thing when you're acting as though black people have failed all on their own in this country. Oh, yeah. But then when you talk about inherent biological a tribalism, you're like, oh yeah, racism totally exists. You don't believe a single fucking thing, my dude.
I absolutely do believe. I believe a lot of things, and like
a lot of contradictory things, maybe.
Hey. The Irish were subjected by the crown for about 1,000 years, and they still turned out all right.
I explained everything. You can't run away from it now. We're talking about America right now. You admit that America has instituted white supremacist policies.
Do you not believe that economic status and a legacy of racism and all of these different things are incorporated into sort of the sociological and behavioral manifestations of this or that or the other when it comes to, well, you know, black people do this because they were raised in a legacy.
Right now?
Well, I'm talking about the Irish and comparing them to blacks and how
we've already been over this. I'm just demonstrating how full of shit you are. But I still want to hear how America is going to go to shit if whites become a minority. Why would black people? What policies will black people push?
Sidestepping my question, I want clarification as to what factors play into black failure in your opinion.
Wait, we already went over all of this, but I want to hear how white America.
Can I finish my fucking question?
Wait, can we finish the talking point though? What's going to happen to me?
Finish my question, and you can answer it or not. I don't particularly care.
All right, throw it out there.
What differentiates African Americans from the Irish when it comes to the metaphysics of their quote unquote oppression? Do you attribute a legacy of slavery and a legacy of racism and generational issues to black lack of success?
Are you asking me if I think like historical characteristics factor into the likelihood of a demographic succeeding?
And to play into that, yes.
Yeah, of course. That's pretty much the only thing that factors into it. Yeah.
What about the 25 generations the Irish were oppressed by the English crown? It doesn't seem to have had the same effect on them.
We already talked about this. Also, the oppression wasn't even remotely comparable. For one, the Irish were never chattel slaves.
No, they absolutely were.
No, they weren't. They were indentured servants, and they were brought over here usually for about 8 to 10 years of remittance pay afterwards.
I'm not talking about America.
Wait, we're getting moved off the position again. Hold on. Wait, what's happening to little old Whitey?
Vaush, stop trying to be smug for a second. Stop trying to play this stupid game and actually listen.
Wait, I am listening. You said you didn't care whether I answer the question or not. So now we're trying. I just want to know what's going to happen to me. You people constantly signal fear as to what will happen when we become a white minority, but you never tell me what's going to happen. You're afraid, but of what? What's going to happen?
Fucking mouth, Vaush! You can mute me if you want to, because I'm just about done. I've almost had my fill of listening to you talk over me and not let me finish.
I just want to know what's going to happen.
I'm asking you a specific fucking question, Vaush. And I know
it's a pivot. That's why I don't.
I know exactly why you're doing this, Vaush, and it's pathetic.
I just want to know: should I buy a gun? Should I like do blackface so people don't attack me? What's my defense strategy?
Your Second Amendment rights. That would be a good idea, probably. Let me ask you this fucking question, and it's a very simple question. If blacks have suffered institutional, generational effects due to racism, due to slavery and everything that they went through, and that's a generational issue, why do the Irish why are there not similar consequences for the Irish dating back prior to them ever coming to America? If it should be totally irrelevant, the geographic location, wherever the oppression took place, if Irish people can be oppressed for 1,000 years by the Crown of England and then come over to America sometime later, why does the geographic location of the oppression matter? Should it not still have an impact on the way they interact with the world? Why aren't Irish people committing crimes?
This is still a pivot, and I've already answered this.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, so I've already answered this, but
you haven't answered it to a satisfactory
level.
Then I'll
answer it again. So it did. Irish people came over to America desperately poor. Not slaves, but desperately poor. And for decades, they lived in the same tenements, the same inner city slums as black people. They shared labor with black people. There were signs out front of stores saying no Irish, no N-words, need apply. They were treated basically this, well, black people were a little bit worse, but it's similar category. I mean, they were both treated like a social underclass, but due to previously explained labor and socioeconomic demographic shifts, Irish people were given an out that black people weren't. Essentially, Irish people were given the ability to participate in an economic boom that black people weren't, and they were able to socially distinguish themselves from the black population. There are studies on all of this, by the way, but I've already answered this. Can I please know how I should defend myself as a white person against the coming black tide? Please.
Am I off mute?
I never muted you.
Oh, it seemed like I was muted. Vaush, that had nothing to do with my question. My question is, it's a very simple question that you've complicated. My question is, if you attribute black lack of success and the manifestations of behavior and rage and criminality and all of these different things, if you attribute that to a legacy of, I guess you would call it trauma from institutional racism and a generational,
I wouldn't.
You said that not 5 minutes ago. I asked you and you said yes, you would say that.
No, the factors still exist. The reason why black people are where they are, they still exist. It's not just a trauma thing. It's currently...
I don't know very many people from 100 years ago who were black whose chains were plated gold.
So wait, I feel like I've answered all of this, and I really desperately want to know what's going to happen to me when black people take over. So we weren't talking about trauma, we were talking about socioeconomic characteristics, and I wasn't talking about having personally experienced racism. I was talking about having, I wasn't talking about personally experiencing slavery. I was talking about personally experiencing racism, which black people still do today. So I have adequately explained why there is a difference in the way Irish and black people...
black people experience racism because black people can't behave themselves.
This is dude, this is why I love you. I hope you know I love you in a gay way. I mean, you're like, I'm a rational, free-thinking, nuance-loving Nat Soak. By the way, racism doesn't exist, but actually it does. And the only reason it does is because black people are bad. You are, I just hope you know, okay? I know you have a lot of preconceived beliefs about this sort of thing. Everyone in chat thinks less of you than you think of what you consider to be the lowest black person.
I really could care less what your chat has
All the whites in chat, they're shaming you. You're being excised from my very white community. You're being shamed right now, okay?
I really could care less what your chat has to say.
Everyone, shame.
The fact of the matter is they clearly can't behave themselves and they want change.
Yeah, Ken, this is a white community right here, okay? We have realized our existential identity and we're shaming you.
Vaush, would you call lighting buildings on fire in protest behaving themselves?
Yeah, wait. Are you saying that the fundamentally American right to protest is something you're opposed to? You really are, Canuck, huh?
I don't think that you should be lighting things on fire to protest.
Yeah, well, then what did we do during the American Revolution? We lit a shit ton of stuff on fire.
Are you saying that what's happening with the Black Lives Matter is that a revolution? And are you saying
we're revolting against people like you? Sure, yeah.
The American Revolution was a declared war. Are you saying that you've declared war
on racism? Yes.
No, because we didn't declare war. We declared war on a country. Are you declaring war on basically the established social values of America as they stand right now?
No, we're declaring war on racism. You're the opposite of established American values. American values are supposed to be about equal opportunity.
So why are blacks lighting their own communities on fire?
Damn, that's the cost of revolution, baby, you know?
You need to light your own businesses on fire.
I don't like just the fact, like, it's just so dumb to make me answer for this when, like, a couple of buildings got lit on fire when hundreds of millions of people participated in those protests, and B, white people light shit on fire because they lose sports games, okay? You're violent people. We can't even hold a candle to your predisposition to violence, okay?
I've never lit a building on fire.
Are you sure? Yeah, maybe you need to realize your existential identity, the warrior gene running through white people.
I didn't say existential identity. I said essential identity. There's a difference.
I can't keep this stupid shit kept in track in my head.
Your inability to understand the meaning of words is not a reflection on my
Do we want to? We've been going for an hour 15. Do we want to hit on like trans people? I think that'd be good.
I really have absolutely no desire to discuss very much more with you. I kind of knew it was going to go this way. I kind of knew that you were going to talk over me. I kind of knew that you weren't actually going to address anything I said. I kind of knew that you'd filibuster all over the place, and then you'd latch on to a couple of little bait things thrown out there and make a big show to your audience about.
I feel like I talked less than you. That could just be my impression, though.
Well, we can listen to it. I'll listen to the stream after. I've been trying to talk over you talking over me this whole time, trying to actually finish a fucking point.
That's how I feel, you know?
Well, I guess we're at an impasse, and I'm really not interested in continuing to do that.
Would you say there's a demographic divide between us that a democracy is incapable of reconciling?
Absolutely. Our interests are totally antipodial. We will never be able to inhabit the same area under the same rules. We will always want the opposite of the other, and I think it's right that we should have territory of our own.
Well, you said you were going to give up, right? You said you were just going to go live in some frozen tundra with white people or something?
Well, I mean, that is always an option.
That's always an
option.
Do you ever, hey, listen, okay? When the globo homo agenda fully takes over and America is a paradise for people of all kinds, you're always free to come back, as long as you don't hurt nobody.
Absolutely not.
Are you afraid you'll get like, there'll be like a cute guy like flexing at you? Like, what's going to happen?
No, I have absolutely no interest in living in a society that represents or reflects the values that you would wish to impose.
But all the values that I'm imposing are like freedom and equality. That's pretty much all I've been taking a stand for here. Oh, and empirical evidence. That's also a thing that I care about.
Let me ask you this final question, because I really don't want to discuss anything further with you. But my last question: if you truly believed in democracy, if the majority of people decided that you were an idiot and wanted what I want, would you be okay with that?
Well, a democracy doesn't mean you have to be okay with the majority of opinion.
No, but would you let it ride? Would you say, well, that's the democratic,
if the majority of people in America end up like you, then I will have already lost. And holding to my democratic principles, yes, you get to have that.
Okay. Well, that's
I don't have to agree, and I'll fight against it. But through the democratic process, that's you. You know what they say? Hey, today you, tomorrow me, right?
Well, I don't really. I'll take you at face value on that, but I'm really done being spoken over and having you misrepresent the things I've said. Like I gave up. I think I gave up around the point when you filibustered 10 points out in rapid succession.
Is this white victimhood complex right here? Jesus.
No, it's not. No, it's more you're fucking annoying. You're a really fucking annoying smug guy. And I mean, you are just the most
you're arguing against human rights. It's just really weird that you'd get mad at me for being like patronizing when you're clumsily like stumbling your way through a defense of racial apartheid, you know? Like you're like blacks deserve the racism they've received, and I'm like the bad guy because
stumbling my way through anything. You won't actually let me make any of my points, which I don't blame, because I'm not sure how YouTube would react to any of my points, and maybe you're trying to keep your channel from getting struck for content, and he said something he shouldn't have, so you're kind of trying to play that, and also the audience fucking
I bet your Aryan ancestors not only would have been able to make all their points, but also change my mind, the mind of my audience, and get YouTube on their side.
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, I think they would have been able to. Are you down talking the Aryan ancestors?
I absolutely, yeah, no, it's a fact. Hitler lost his first 2 elections by a landslide. It was only circumstances, and ironically the woman vote, that got him elected chancellor. Like
he was appointed.
No, he was appointed to chancellor, but he was elected.
He was elected after his appointment, and by the time the election took place, he had already begun cracking down on state dissent.
The point
Not really a fair election.
Well, none of the elections in Germany were fair at the time. There were weird coalitions in a really, really, really dysfunctional quote unquote democratic system. Like they only had,
it was probably a little better than Nazi Germany democracy wise, I'd say. Probably a slight improvement.
I think that the testimonials that you can read of people who actually lived in Hitler's Germany would would change your mind on that. I think most
On what? What the Holocaust? On democracy? Are you saying Hitler was a Democrat?
Well, Hitler was democratically elected.
Well, no, he was appointed, and only after that, after he'd already begun to crack down on dissidents, was he elected.
He was democratically elected,
Wait.
and the National Socialist Party was
Hold on.
democratically elected.
I need to find it really quick. Hitler voting card. Have you guys seen the? Oh yeah, here was the Adolf Hitler, the very fair election right here. Okay, so if you wanted to vote, okay, in the center, in the big circle, do you want Hitler to be the leader? Yeah, and then like in the corner with like an SS officer looking over your shoulder, you have the 9. It's like. Sorry. You know, it's just funny.
Well, you're confusing two different events. Like, he didn't immediately become the Führer. He served as chancellor for quite a while until the Reichstag burnt down, and then that election that you're talking about, the consensus by the people.
Yes, when the Reichstag burnt down totally from foreign interlopers.
Communists, but
yes, the communists that burnt down the Reichstag.
You'll say it was them, and I'll say it was the communists, and we'll keep going. And it's such a silly, meaningless point of history.
It's, you know, it's just a little bit funny, you know. It's
funny.
I'm sorry, my citizens. The Reichstag has been burnt down. We have no choice now but to do a Holocaust and invade the rest of the developed world. Thank you.
I don't know why you keep bringing up the Holocaust.
I know, because you probably don't think it happened, right? So it's like a
whether I think
secret.
it happened or not isn't really relevant. It doesn't serve any purpose other than to make the History Channel money at this point. Like, what purpose does it serve? Other than like once a month you get, you know, Holocaust Week on the History Channel, and they make, you know, their ad revenue money off of fucking fat boomers watching History Channel instead of doing anything else with their Social Security.
Why did you mind the idea of me calling you a Nazi in the title? I mean, did you really think it would like prep people inaccurately for what type of conversation this would end up being?
Because you people use Nazi interchangeably with like fucking anything else, you know, like dissident libertarians.
No, you're a true blue Nazi, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am like the 0.1% that you can actually accurately say that to. Yes.
All right. Okay. Gotcha. Well, wouldn't want to contribute to the impurity of your identifier, I suppose. Is this, by the way, a non-intrinsic identity that you've attached your life to?
Essential, and yeah, it's non-essential.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe you need to do a little bit more of some heat yoga. Try to reconnect with your inner honky. Really bring it out.
Come on, buddy.
Oh, you're gonna get offended over that. Really?
I'm not offended. I just think that's silly.
Look, I'm one white to another. Okay, it's good.
Come on, Vaush. That's silly.
What? How is it? Sillier than the shit you've been saying? I'd say it's on par.
The shit I've said, you haven't actually really offered, except for the crime or the jury thing, which I will absolutely read that study.
Right, well,
other than that, I don't really think that you've addressed and made counterclaims, but you haven't really offered any refutation, and that's pretty difficult to do over the internet like this, and that's fine. That's acceptable. But to sit there and assert that you've refuted what I've said, I think is disingenuous. We've both just made claims.
Well,
and we've both offered examples. I've tried to offer more examples, but every time I try to offer more than like half an example, you start yelling. So,
you know, when next you come on, if we are blessed with another conversation, we should talk Holocaust stuff. I actually have a section to my document dedicated to debunking Holocaust debunks. So I think it'd be like really fun time. You know?
That's fine and dandy. We put that up on BitChute, I guess.
All right. Hey, I love you, buddy. Okay. From one white to another. All right. I just hope. Listen, we're gonna make this country. We're gonna make America a paradise for all people. Okay. It's gonna be sick as shit.
You are perfectly entitled to do that because it doesn't affect me. And if we can't agree on anything else, I saw your gecko earlier, and I also breed New Caledonian geckos. So we've got that in common at least.
Oh, that's beautiful. New Caledonian geckos are beautiful.
Well, yeah, your crested gecko is a New Caledonian gecko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think hold on. That's the proper term for them, right? Because they were found there back in the 1970s or something like that.
Yeah. There's Leachianus, Chihuahua, gargoyle geckos.
We have one of those too.
You have a gargoyle gecko?
Yeah, skittish little
Yeah.
fuck. Yeah, we have one
Oh
back
yeah,
there.
definitely. Yeah, they're absolutely. They don't like to be touched.
See, look, democracy can survive, okay? If we can all just agree on our shared love of big, fat, dumb, fat geckos.
Yeah, I would. If there's ever a gecko party, we can vote for that together.
All right. Okay, I'll take you up on that. You know, I believe in reaching across the aisle, okay? Hey,
Yeah, sure.
you have a good one, okay?
You too, buddy.
All right, peace.
All right, bye-bye.